question first, and then we'll go back and do number 1, all right? We'll try to do it somewhat organized here. So, in question number 2, the last one is this. Okay? That was the last one. So let's think about what we were doing yesterday at the end of class. Everybody okay? Yeah. What do you think we should do on this problem?
Square root both sides.
Square root both sides, exactly. Now I want to point something out. The one right before it, which we did yesterday, looked like this. And the first thing we did, if you recall, was divide by 3. Why am I not dividing by 2? Because it's inside the parentheses. That makes a huge difference, right? You can't move it. So we have to square root both sides, so that's perfect. So when I square root this over here, what do I get? 2x plus 1. Remember, when you square root a squared, they cancel, and just leave you with that. 2x plus 1 equals plus or minus, right on, that's it, plus or minus 4. Would you agree that this is really 2 different equations? It's 2x plus 1 equals 4. And it's 2x plus 1 equals negative 4. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
So we are going to solve both of those equations, and that's going to be our 2 answers, because we talked about yesterday, when your equation has a squared in it, you're going to have 2 answers. So, subtracting 1, I got 3 over 2 for the first answer. Subtracting 1, be careful on this one. If you subtract 1 from negative 4, you actually get negative 5. So this one is negative 5 halves. We good?
Yep.
So, again, we're a little whopper job because of me mixing things up. But we're going to look at solving these equations in different ways. So one way is to take the square root of both sides. That's what we practiced there. Alrighty? Alright, let's get those calculators out now. And some of you have used your calculators a lot, and maybe it's just messing around with it. Maybe it wasn't even in class, you were just messing around with it. And some of you probably don't even know how to turn it on. So we're at all different stages of the game here. So we're going to walk through it, but it's really, really important that you are paying close attention to me, because I don't have time to go back and repeat myself, all right? So I know we're thinking about a big football game, we're thinking about Xavier doing something in New York, we're thinking about, I don't know, maybe we're gonna fight with our mom. Never fight with your mom, mom's so wonderful. Maybe we are doing, I don't know, it doesn't matter. Put it all in your mind, we're focused on our calculators right now. So we're gonna solve this equation graphically. Now what that means is we're going to draw a picture of it, okay? And wherever it this is not what it looks like. I'm making up this picture. This does not look like this. But I'm going to graph it. Whatever equation they give me, I'm going to graph it. Where it crosses the x-axis, those are the solutions, okay? The real math word for that is these are the zeros. These are the zeros. Where it crosses the x-axis, those are called the zeros of the equation. Zeros mean solutions, answers. Okay? So, we're going to graph this guy. Because I want everybody to have the same picture, okay, I want everybody to start, turn it on, the button's right down here, turn it on. Okay? If you do not have a calculator, or you do not have batteries in your calculator, or your calculator is not charged, you need to press along with me, but look at somebody else, because you're not going to have a picture, okay? Those of you with the new calculators, like you have a new one, oh, that's an Inspire. Okay, who's got a new one? He got a new one, yeah. So I don't know about that. I don't know if my charger will work, but I have a charger over there on the shelf that'll charge like 10 at a time. And you just slip it down in there and it'll charge it for you. So you're welcome to do that. Is it dead? Okay. Then you gotta charge it.
Is it this one?
Right. If they're the ones that have batteries, they're battery operated. This is a new one. So that one will charge over there. So what I'm saying to you is, if you have like, I have an old fashioned calculator. If you have a big thick one like this, it's thick because it's got batteries in it, okay? The rechargeable ones, when you bought that calculator, you got a charger. Okay, so ideally, you will charge it at home, just like you do your phone. If your calculator is not charged, you are welcome at any time, like first thing in the morning, to bring it in, stick it in the charger, and then it'll be ready when you're ready, okay? Ideally, though, you will charge it at home, but we have those chargers. Okay, so our calculator is turned on. I want you to go up here in the top row of buttons, very important, right under the screen. You find one that says window. Window? Okay, I want you to press it. Now, you should see some X-Min, X-Max, Y-Min, you know, different things, a whole list of different things. This is where you tell the calculator how much of the coordinate axis you want to see. We are normally going to operate in what's called a standard window. And the standard window goes from -10 to 10 and -10 to 10. We can manually enter those numbers, or we can do it quickly by going to the zoom button, which is right next to it. See the zoom button? And then going down to option 6, which is zoom standard, and that will automatically set your calculator up to the standard window so that we're all looking at exactly the same picture, okay? So press zoom, did you do it? And then zoom 6, yep, that'll take care of it for you. All right, so now we're all looking at the same size graph. There will be times we will need to change that, but not today. Today we're gonna use this window, all right? So now, everybody's set up with the right window. Now it's time to type in our equation. So again, in that very top row of buttons, really important row, see where it says y equals? Okay, press it. If you have stuff in there, if you have a brand new calculator, there's probably nothing in it, but if you have a borrowed calculator or one from last year, you need to clear out whatever's in there. So if there's already an equation in there, just put your cursor on it and hit delete, and it will clear it out. Or hit clear or something, okay? Get it out of there. So now, does your screen have just y1 equals, y2 equals, y3 equals? Okay, you can put in a whole bunch of equations at once. We only want to put in one at a time. But I put in this one, okay? So, just press 2. Now, to put an X into your calculator, you need the variable button. And the variable button is this one right here. It is right next to the alpha, and it's the button that has an X on it, but it also has a T and a theta and some other stuff. But that is your variable button. Anytime you want to put a variable into the calculator, you're going to use that button. All right, so press it. Everybody find it? Now the calculator should say 2x. Everybody say 2x? All right, now we need to square that. So just find your square button. Right here along the side, you have a button that squares. Hit it. And now it should say 2x squared. All right, now plus, so plus, you know where your add button is. 5. And then back to your variable again, your variable button, right here where my finger is. And then -3. And then hit graph. So up there in the top row, the last button in the top row says graph. Hit it, and you should see a picture. Now, I told you it's not this one. Did you get a parabola?
Yes.
Of course you did, because squared equations are parabolas. And what did Mrs. Ford say yesterday and today? if you have a squared equation, how many answers you gonna have? 2. And do we have 2 answers?
Yes.
We do. So now we're gonna find those answers, okay? So here's what I need you to do, pay attention. Now, some of you are thinking, I can pretty much guess what they are. Well, that isn't going to work for you in general. This is a simple problem, it's rigged, but normally, you're not gonna be able to look at it and say, oh, that looks like about -3, or that looks like about 1, or whatever. You're not gonna be able to do that. So we're gonna go through the formal process of finding zeros, finding x-intercepts. Okay, so here we go. I want you to press second, and then again in that top row, calc. Now, the button itself says trace, but when I press second, it goes to the calc and not the trace. Okay, so second calc. Now look at, or press, go down to 0. We want the 0, so go down to 0 in that list and press enter. Did a cursor come up on your picture?
Yes.
You see a flashing thing on your picture. Okay, wherever it is, you're going to move it. If we decide we want to find this 0 first, right here, this guy first, we're going to move our cursor so that it is somewhere to the left of that point. So if you think of a line right there, where that point is, be over here somewhere to the left of that. Where exactly doesn't matter, just have it over here somewhere. So use your arrow buttons. Your arrow buttons are those in that round thing right here. Use your arrow buttons, arrow that cursor over until it's on the left side. Okay, your calculator is literally saying to you, set the left bound. Right, see that on the screen? It says left bound, question mark? Set the cursor somewhere over here and press enter. Huh?
Mine says first curve. Question mark. Click in the bottom right.
Okay, okay. What you did was you didn't press 0. You pressed intersect. So if you go to second calc, why are you wet?
It's probably the news.
It's kind of gross now. Press enter. Now, some of you, okay, I have an old calculator now, one of the old ones, and mine put a little arrow thing up here. If you have a newer one, it might actually put a line in there, okay? Doesn't matter, you set your left bound, okay? Now what's the calculator want to know now?
Right bound.
Right bound. So now you're going to use the same arrow buttons, but now you're going to move your cursor over here somewhere so it's on the right side of that point. Remember, we're doing this point, not that one, we're doing this one. So we're setting our cursor to the left. Now we're going to move it over here somewhere and press enter again. So I got a little arrow up here. You may have gotten a line. Okay, now what is the calculator saying?
Yes.
Yes. So what you've done so far is you've narrowed down the interval for the calculator to look. Now, what's your guess? Well, we don't know. Just move the cursor so it's in between somewhere, like close to that point. So move the cursor up to where it's just about on that point. It doesn't have to be exactly on it. Don't worry about that. Press enter, and down at the bottom of the screen, it will tell you what the 0 is. Does it say -3?
Yep.
Error, no sign change.
Okay, what that means is you did not set your bounds on the right and the left. They're either both on the right or both on the left. So you need to start over. So second calc. Okay, I don't know why you have 2 equations in there. You have the wrong
Because
equations.
it's errors.
Okay, so come back up here. Add part two. So arrow over. Arrow over, not down. Arrow over. Yeah, now put in +5x - 3. And that's gonna be your equation. All right. Now, we're gonna, I got -3. Did everybody, did some of you at least get -3?
I got it, okay.
Okay, so now what we're gonna do is repeat those exact same steps, but we're gonna do this point, okay? So now when you set your bounds, you're setting them on the left and the right of this point, okay? So we start all over again. Here we go. Second, calc. That button is really important, that calc button. When you press second calc, you get a whole list of stuff. You want the one that says 0. We're finding the zeros. So we press enter. Okay? Now, you should see a cursor on there. Where do you need to move your cursor? Somewhere to the left of this point. It's gotta be away from this one, okay? So you want it like in here somewhere. Set it over here somewhere. So move it over, press enter. Now you're gonna get your arrow or your line. Now it says, what's my right bound? All right, move it over here somewhere. Okay, so Olivia, make sure you move it far enough, okay? And then it says, okay, where do you think it is? Well, I don't know, it looks like it's about right there. I just moved my cursor. So it's close to here and press enter. Where's that one?
0.5.
0.5. So that 0 is at 0.5. So the two answers to the problem are -3 and 0.5. Now, how many of you got at least one of those on your own? You got one of them. Okay, so some of you don't have your hands up, so let's try the next one and see if we can do better with that one. So x squared minus 8x equals -15. What do you think we might do to get started with this equation?
Window.
Move it over, yeah, now, we're not gonna need to adjust our window, I hope. I think our window is gonna be just fine. We're gonna move that 15 over though. Does that make sense to you to get everything on one side of the equation? Now, this is another really easy equation. So I know you could solve this by factoring and all that. We're trying to get used to how the calculator works. Because guys, you are not gonna be able to solve this. You are gonna need to graph that, right? So that's why we're practicing the graphing, because there are times when you need to graph. All right, so we got it moved over. All right, so now my window is set. I don't need to mess with my window. It's gonna stay just like it is until I change it, and I'm not gonna change it. So what do I do now? I go to y equals, because that's where I put in my equation. Now, I already have one in there because I just did one, so I'm gonna clear that out. I'm gonna hit clear, and then I'm gonna type in this equation right here. So, my variable button, look where my finger's pointing, my variable button. So x squared, hit your squared button, minus 8x again, plus 15, and then hit graph. Graph is in the top row buttons, clear at the very end, graph. Did we get another parabola?
Yep.
We did. This one looks like this. Now, the answers to the question are going to be this point and this point right here. Now, we're going to be careful on this one. Okay? So we're going to find the zeros. So we second calc, and then pick the 0 option. And then start moving your cursor. Now, when I did that, I couldn't see my cursor, but my calculator at the bottom of the screen told me where it was. It said it's at 0,15. That's where mine was. Right? So it tells you where the cursor is. So if it's at 0,15, don't I need to move it this way? So I used that arrow, and I arrowed over, and pretty soon it came on the screen. Okay, so make sure you got a cursor, because you need it, you need your cursor. Find it. Now, where do we want it? Well, first of all, don't we want it over here somewhere? Alright, so just get it over there somewhere and press enter. Now, here comes the tricky part. We need it on the right side of this point. So move it just down here somewhere. Do not move it too far, because you can't, we can't be around that point. So move your cursor, your right bound is gonna be like right here, somewhere on that bottom loop there. Move your right bound there. I know there's not much room, but you can do it. That's where you want your right bound to be. And then just move it a couple clicks, 2 or 3 clicks to the left, and press enter. And where did it say that 0 was? 3. That one's the 3. So now we're gonna find this one. And one of our answers is 3. Remember, we're solving, so we got x equals. Now we need that one. So remember, we have to go back to second calc, and then down to 0, because that's what we're doing. This is the point we're looking at. So don't we need our left bound to be like right down here again? So move your cursor so that it's down here somewhere in the bottom of this loopy thing, and press enter. Then your right bound's gonna be over here, so that's easier, just move it over there. And then go ahead and move it down, this is your guess. Looks like it's about right there, press enter. And what'd you get for that one?
5.
5. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, how many of you got at least one of those? You either got 3 or you got 5 on that one. Raise your hand so I get a sense of if we are following along here, what's going on. All right. Let's have you try this next one. And I will come around and help you, help those of you who have a calculator and are stuck. Believe it or not, we can put it in like this, but I don't suggest it at this point. What might we do before we go to the calculator? What might we do?
Set equal.
Giovanni?
Set equal to 0.
Yeah, so I'd probably distribute here, so that would be 3x squared plus 11x. And then subtract the 20. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, now it's ready to go. So remember, where do we start? Y equals. Clear out the old equation, type in the new one. Then second calc, 0, set those bounds, and you're off and running. All right, so let's come around and see. I want everybody doing it now. You wanna find the answers. You know what you're doing, Quinn? Got it? No, you don't. You don't have it. Yeah. So clear that out, stay clear. New equation. Remember, in order to graph it, you gotta be in Y equals. This is the sign. Yeah. So your equation is to do like this graph. Okay, so now that's the point you're gonna be looking for first. Second calc. Calc.
So that they know it is, the calculator knows it.
Now you're gonna move the cursor. Keep going. Keep going. When it's, no, it's gotta be over here, it's gotta be on the right, or left, see how it says left? This is the left side of that. Move it. It's up here, keep going, enter. Okay, that line, the line of the pin has to be on the left of the point, it is. Now, move it. The cursor. Cursor, yeah, only left and right, hit enter. Okay, see how you did that? Now, move the cursor up, somewhere between, it has to be between the lines. Anywhere between the lines. He got -5 for one of his points. Did anybody else get that? Okay, alright, so listen, there's some concern, there's some concern that when you graph this, I'm not exactly sure what it looks like, something like this? Okay, now, if the question had been, we need to find the minimum point of the curve, the minimum point of the curve, that would be down here somewhere, would you agree with me? But what is our job? What are we looking for? We're looking for these two, right? Can we see those? So the rest of the picture doesn't matter. So yeah, I know it looks a little weird and maybe you're anal like me and I gotta have my whole parabola. No, you don't. Not for this problem. What we need to do is set our cursor somewhere over here. Set our cursor somewhere over here. And as long as, when you set your cursor, press enter. As long as you either have a line on either side of your point, so if you have a new calculator, you're gonna get a line on either side of your point. If you have an old calculator like mine, you're gonna get one of these things. As long as those things are on either side of the point, you're good. You're good. Now, if you've got a line here and a line here, start over. You're not over far enough. You gotta go right more. But that's all that matters, kids. We don't need to see the bottom of the picture. That cursor, when you start pressing that left and right arrow buttons, that cursor's gonna move, whether you can see it or not. So it's gonna go off the screen, but it's gonna come back, I promise. And that's what you care about, right? Okay, so let's not get all hung up. In a second, I gotta watch my time, we're running out of time. In a second, I will show you how to, if you really gotta see the bottom of the picture, I'll show you how to do that. But who else has a problem? Check for valid bounds. Okay, so what happens is you're not setting, remember I just said, you have to be on either side. So you have an easy, calculator because you get the lines. So second calc, 0. No, where's my cursor? Right there. I need this one first. Over here. So it's to the left of that point. Okay, press enter. That line, see how that line is on the left of that point? So now I'm gonna move over here. Press enter. See how that line? Now I just gotta move my cursor so it's somewhere in between those two lines. Like there it is. Okay? So if you are getting invalid something or other, it means you're not setting your bounds correctly. Okay? Okay, I'm gonna do it one more time for you, Eddie, and then you need to pay attention to this. So we have our equation, we hit drag, so second calc, down to 0, press enter. And then you see the cursor, I'm gonna just start arrowing, there it comes.
Somewhere over here, but you're
Yeah, there it is. Now, first I need to grab that point. See how nice that is? See that line? How that line is to the left of that point? Okay, so now it says what's my right? Press enter. Now that line is to the right. It doesn't matter where it is, as long as this one's on the left, this one's on the other side. Now I have my cursor between those two lines. Press enter. Same thing over here. Okay, I do not know how to use this calculator. You have to figure out your buttons. Alright, you guys got it? Okay, so we got -5. I think it was -5 for the one. What was the other one?
1.3 repeating.
1.3 repeating. Okay, we got 1.3 repeating. All right, so now for those of you who care about such things, I would like you to go to Window, go to window, remember that was the first thing we did. And Y min, go down the list until you get to Y min. Right now, it should say -10, right? That means the lowest you can see on your grid is -10. So -10 is like right here, okay? Now, make that a -20. Just change it, just hit -20, and your negative button is down here. Don't use the minus sign. Use the negative button, which is right down at the very bottom of the calculator. Okay, did you change it to -20? Now hit graph. Can you see the bottom of your calculator now? Or the bottom of your parabola now? Still can't see it?
Nope.
Well, then I guess we'll go back to window, and let's just go big time, let's make it -50. Make Y min -50, because we wanna go down farther. Now hit graph.
I can see it.
Do you see the bottom?
Yep.
Okay, now, that will have no impact on your answers at all. But that's how you, if you're missing a piece of the picture you want, then that's how you make those adjustments. It's in your window. And we needed to go farther down, so we adjusted the minimum Y. Does that make sense to you? If we needed to go farther right, we would adjust the maximum X, right? That's how that works. Okay? Now, let's go back to our window, and let's go ahead and change that back to a -10, because it's gonna mess up our stuff. So change your Y min to -10. And let's do the last equation, which is 4x squared equals 25. Now, I know you know the answers to this already. We could square root it and get the answer, I get it. But let's do it on our calculator. So we're gonna subtract the 25. We're gonna go to Y equals. If you want a graph, you gotta be in Y equals. Okay? We're gonna type it in, clear out the old, put in the new, 4x squared minus 25. So pay attention, if it's minus 25, you're using your minus button. If it's negative something, you use this, okay? All right, hit graph. Uh-oh, you're back panic mode. You know, I don't see the bottom of my parabola, do you? But I don't really care, but if it bothers you, go ahead and change it, make it so you can see it. Now, second calc, 0. Just keep arrowing till your cursor comes in, arrow left, you send your left bound. Shout it out when you get it.
2.5.
Negative 2.5?
It says I have a window range error.
Okay, that means that when you changed your window, you didn't put in the right number. So I'm not sure what you put in, but we can tell real easily. Okay, so Olivia's calculator, she has typed Y min is 10 and Y max is -20. Now, does that make any sense? So Olivia, what you're telling the calculator is you want this to be 10 and this to be -20.
Okay.
See the problem?
Yep.
Okay, the calculator does not make mistakes, boys and girls. It's always operator error.
I knew it was.
So you need to go back and look at what you're telling the calculator to do and think about that and fix it. Your window is literally putting these labels on your graph. So make sure that you're telling it the right thing. What did you get for the other one? Hopefully positive 2.5. One of them was negative and the other one is positive. Okay? All right, we're gonna do one other problem. That's enough of the calculator for now, so you can set that aside. we're gonna do one completing the square problem. Remember, boys and girls, we do have office hours. However, those of you who are unprepared with a calculator, you need to figure this out on your own. So it's all on video. You can watch it and work along. Now, could I put this into my calculator like I just did and find the answers? Absolutely, that will always work. Could I do one of these numbers on this thing? We call this solving by factoring. Could I do that?
Yep.
Yeah, but the directions unfortunately say solve by completing the square. All right. Does anybody have a clue? You did this. Anybody remember anything about that?
Don't you first like move all the negatives?
Very good. The first thing we do is move the 7 to the other side. Now, notice, this is purposeful. I left the space where the 7 was, I left it. Because what I'm going to do now is find a new number to put in place of the 7. So I moved the 7, because it was not a good number to have. And now I'm gonna find a good number. Does anybody remember how to find the good number? Michael?
You take half of 6 and
You
then
take
square.
half of 6 and square it. So half of 6 and square it. That's the number that goes on both sides. Do you remember this from last year?
Yeah.
Now, the reason that you did that is because this is a perfect square. This is x minus 3 squared. X3. X minus 3 squared equals 16. Does that kind of problem look familiar? Think about the very first problem we did today. What do you do when you have something that looks like this? You square root. So x minus 3 equals plus or minus 4. See, kids? This process gives us an equation that we can just square root. So x equals 3 plus or minus 4. Or some of you might write plus or minus 4 plus 3, it doesn't matter. Move that 3 over. So what are my answers? 3 plus 4 is 7, and 3 minus 4 is -1. Now, I know I flew through that. There's more. We're going to practice some more. But that's a start on that. All right, folks. Have a wonderful weekend. Good luck to everybody who is doing something this weekend.
Thank you, Mrs. Ford.
I can push boundaries.